Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Tina. And today I'm telling you about my favorite books that I read in 2024. This was a really interesting reading year for me. Typically, I am a girl that loves front list. I read a lot of new releases. This year in my top 10, though, only 3 were published in 2024, which is so surprising. Years past, it's been primarily books that were published from the year that I was sharing my best of list in, but I've got a really good mix of backlist, quite a bit of literary fiction, also a lot of debuts. So let's hop right into it. I'm going to go in no particular order because, I don't know, it's New Year's Eve when I'm filming this and I feel a little bit chaotic. So starting with The Paper Palace, this was the second to last edition to my best of. I read this in November. Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley is literary fiction. This book is about a woman who is torn between loving her husband of many years and her childhood best friend. And the book opens in a shocking way. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but they have sex, the first scene in the book. Not her and her husband, but her and her best friend, Jonas. And they had been kind of longing for each other for years and years and years. And not only do they finally do it, they do it with their family in this vacation home that they're in. And that kicks off this book. It's dark, it's intense, it's pretty long. It's like 380 pages, but I didn't really feel the length. I thought this one was so compelling. Lots of morally great characters, but I really cared for each and every one of them, and I was so curious. So this one, happy that I read it because I did DNF it at first. Speaking of DNFs, another book that I did not finish the first time I tried it was The Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton, and obviously I loved it when I finally did read it. This is my second favorite book of the year. It almost took the top spot, but it is climate fiction. It's dystopian, and it's about Wanda, who was born during a hurricane. And this is important because she was born at this time, she sort of has this difference about her that comes into play during the book. It's about survivalist, and it's dystopian because climate fiction or climate change has finally gotten to us, and Florida is no longer inhabitable, so are many other parts of the country, and everything sort of descends. And you've got survivalist, you've got making the best of a terrible situation. This book is so wonderful. It does a really good job with being very poetic and literary in spots, but then also very suspenseful in spots. And as you can tell, I tabbed a ton of it. I just love this book. Also, what a great cover. Next, A Place for Us by Fatima, Farheen, Mirza. This is a debut, and I cannot wait for this author to come out with another one. It is a story of love, identity, belonging, and it kicks off at a wedding. So one of the sisters is getting married, and you come to find out that their estranged brother is back in town. Now, you don't know why he's back in town. You just know that he's been away for a while. And the book does something interesting. It very much plays with structure. It is not linear. It is told in 3 different parts. And when I say it's not linear, in some sections you'll think you're talking to one of the sisters, and then all of a sudden it goes back and tells you what the mother was thinking at the time, and it's very interesting in how she did that. It's an Indian wedding, and it's not only about the children, it's also about the mom and dad and the choices that they made to bring their family to the United States. This one's beautiful. It made me cry at the end. It's a story of family. It's a story of identity, belonging, siblings, parenthood, and it's just wonderful. Speaking of books about identity, These Impossible Things by Salma El-Wardany. I loved this book. This book is incredible. It is about friendship. It's about 3 friends. They are been friends since they were little. They're Muslim girls, and they sort of are navigating their lives and the choices that they want to make within them, with their culture, with the expectations that are set for them by being Muslim women. And you sort of hear, you follow along with them, and you hear what they are navigating, you hear what they're going through, and it's heartbreaking in places, but it's also very realistic and very hopeful. I laughed so hard at the beginning of paragraph. Do you think Eid sex is a thing, like birthday sex, but just the Muslim equivalent? And that's when I knew, I'm like, okay, this book is going to be for me. I think if you have friends that you've had for a really long time, this could be a very good one. And again, I enjoy the cover of this. My third favorite, this was the most recent addition to my best of list. It's Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. It came out in 2002, but somehow it feels very timeless, like it's been around for ages. It's set in London in 1862, and it follows Sue. Sue was born to a group of what's called Fingersmiths, business. They are con men or confidence men and women. And so they basically con people. And that's how they make their living, right? People will bring them trinkets and they will sell them and, kind of mark it up and all of these things. But this man called Gentleman comes and he has a proposition. He's got this great scheme that he wants to do, but he needs Sue's help. He wants to go into this heiress's home and basically get her fortune from her. But in order to do so, he needs, because it's the 1800s, he can't just go in there and like court her. He needs a female accompaniment to his plan. And so he takes Sue with them and things kind of kick off from there. This book is told in 3 different parts and it's very surprising. It's kind of quiet in places, but it's also very propulsive. I was so excited to see what was going to happen. I was rooting for Sue and, even though she's this morally great character, I really wanted to know what was going to happen to her. It's also about the role of womanhood in this time and place, and I love this one. It's excellent. A book that I think would go along very well with Fingersmith is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. This was one of my 2024 releases that I loved, and it's a debut. It was longlisted for the Booker Prize, and it is set in 1961 in the Netherlands, and it's about these women. It's actually about one woman. She lives in her family's home. Her name's Isabel. She is prickly. This woman is very prickly, very much set in her ways, and she is pissed off when her brother moves in his girlfriend. He has to go away for work for a couple of weeks and he's like, hey, I need you to hang out with my girlfriend. She needs to stay here with you while I'm away. And Isabel's like, why? And you come to find out why it is that she's beholden to her brother. So the woman moves in and there's this master class of tension. She gives the most eloquent barbs. She's so sassy to this woman that moves in, but she's sort of unfazed. She's like, whatever. She's all sunshine and roses and tries to get the woman to be on her side and befriend her. And that's what it looks like on the surface. I will say there's much more to this. So give it a shot, give it some time. I started the audio. I couldn't quite connect with it until I switched to print. But then once I connected with print, I was all over this book. I loved it. I think it was really quiet and very, very smart. It also taught me about a time and place that I didn't know much about, Netherlands in the 60s. I mean, obviously I don't have any experience with that, but this one opened my eyes and it's great. Speaking of books that opened my eyes, we've got Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. Been on my list since it came out, most likely. And this one kicks off in Ghana in the 18th century, and you've got 2 stepsisters. One gets married off to a slaver and stays in Ghana. One gets put into slavery and gets brought to the United States. And it follows their family lineage throughout these many, many generations. What I really like about this book, it gives you a family tree in the beginning. And not only do you get a family tree, you sort of get to see who is who. What helped me a lot, because you're spanning a lot of years, was to identify what year each of these characters were introduced. Because in the beginning, I was a little bit lost. But there's a lot of characters, but she does this in a just fantastically interesting and eye-opening way, because you're following these different people and seeing how their lives were affected by what happened to their ancestors many, many generations ago. And then you're sort of sitting here wondering, okay, are the two ever going to reconnect? Are the 2 lines ever going to intersect again? This book is brilliant. It's a debut, which is incredible. It's only 300 pages, but when I tell you it packs a punch, this book will stay with you. And everybody that I told that this is on my favorites list is like, yeah, of course, it's on my favorites list too. This book is a book that will stick with you. Speaking of books that will stick with you, it's James. This is my favorite book of 2024. This is a reimagining of Huckleberry Finn told from the enslaved James's point of view. And everything you've heard about this book is true. I don't know very many people that didn't enjoy it. Mine's different looking, and I'm so proud of this. I love an arc. I love an arc. It's almost like a collector's edition for me. So obviously this is not the cover. This is the cover you'll most likely see. But anyway, the book is the same. And it follows James as he finds out that he is about to be sold and taken from his family. And so he runs away. And if you know Huck Finn at all, you sort of know what happens, and it follows that structure, but it also turns everything you think you know on its head. It's subversive. It's devastating. It's also oddly funny. And he's just brilliant. Percival Everett is brilliant. I need to read more by him. I'm definitely going to add one of his books to my TBR in 2025. Speaking of authors that I want to read in 2025, you've got If We Were Villains by ML Rio. She has a book coming out in 2025. I think it's called like Hot Wax or something, but this one is so incredible. I did not expect to enjoy this one. It is about Shakespeare students. So it's about, I think it's 7 friends. They are really, really tight. They're college friends and they go to college, not at a normal university. They're at this theater, they're at this conservatory. And so they're all actors or people that play behind the scenes. And in the story, each of them holds this archetype. Each of them is, sort of this almost caricature of who they are supposed to be. But I really resonated with me because I feel like in college, a lot of people do get pigeonholed and you sort of think the world revolves around you. You're in this bubble. Maybe not everyone's college experience, but certainly mine. And what's cool is each of the friends in real life play the same role that they play on stage: hero, villain, tyrant, etc. And you can definitely tell that the author studied Shakespeare. I don't know that much about Shakespeare, but I still enjoyed it very much. It's told in 5 different acts, and something pretty devastating happens to the friends. But the book opens with one of the friends being talked to by the police, and you come to find out that he had spent many years in prison for something that happened when they were in college. And the rest of the book sort of traces back to figure out what happened, whose fault it was, what's really going on here. This one's unexpected. It's also like very nostalgic. It's very, I want to say cozy almost. It made me, I don't know, want to be friends with these people, even though they're all kind of terrible. I don't know how else to describe it. That bond that they had was really alluring, and I just thought this one was so good. Last but not least, We Used to Live Here, Marcus Kliewer. This is another 2024 release. This one is very unexpected. It's about this young queer couple who flips houses, and one day this family comes to their home and basically says, "Hey, we used to live here. Do you mind if I show my kids around?" And Eve's kind of like, I don't think so. I'm not sure, but Eve doesn't really have much of a backbone, and she's overly polite to a fault. So she agrees to let these people in. And when they get in, things start happening and things get really, really weird. I would recommend not knowing as much going in. This book definitely scared me. You're either going to love or hate this book. Most people love it, but you might not. I don't know. Who's to say? I certainly loved it. I thought it was so interesting, so thought-provoking, and so unexpected. I'm such a fan of this author. This is his debut, and I want more, frankly. That's it. These are my 10 best books of 2024. I am happy this reading year is over. I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but I would say it was a good reading year, not my best overall all-time reading year. I picked out James as my favorite for 2024 in March, and so I feel like I read a lot of meh books this year. Like, meh, they were fine. It's a book, right? It's nothing that's going to really stick with me long term. Not talking about these. These are all-time faves. In 2025, I hope to have less meh reading experiences. I want to read a lot of these buzzy new releases that I'm excited about. I definitely will be sharing a 2025 most anticipated video here soon, but overall, let me know how your 2024 reading year was. Was it good, bad, otherwise? I'm ending the year having read 130 books, which is awesome. I mean, my goal was 120. That's a pretty good cadence for me, but I ended up exceeding it. I'm really glad to have finished this reading year out with you guys on YouTube. Let me know what your favorite book of 2024 was, and I will see you next year. Bye.